Immediately after the very controversial visit by President William Ruto, to Uhuru Kenyatta at his Ichaweri Gatundu home, immediately after that, Uhuru Kenyatta had some other visitors. High-powered delegations, both from the United Kingdom High Commission in Nairobi and the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. And those visits to Uhuru Kenyatta are worrying many Kenyans, and quite rightly so. On my show today, we will go very deep. Although in the past I've gotten into a lot of trouble. For stepping on powerful international toes. But I'll try my best within the limits to go as deep as possible into analyzing this worrying development in our politics. And I believe at the end of my show today, we will all better understand what is really going on here. Now, for avoidance of doubt, I am afraid it is not good news. However, ya Mungu ni mengi. In politics, one of the reasons why people love politics is that it is unpredictable. You make a plan to go this way and do that, and then something small happens and turns everything upside down, and you fail in your mission, no matter how powerful you are, and the people of Kenya win. Now, I have a funny feeling that we have come to the season. We are at the doorstep of that season where the long-suffering people of Kenya will start to win big. But let me start this story at the beginning before I lose some of you. Okay? And in our tradition of keeping it simple, we will ask a few critical questions and attempt to answer them. The first question is, was the visit previously by President William Ruto linked to these visits by envoys from the US and UK? Were they linked? Question number 2. What did the US and the UK want from retired President Uhuru Kenyatta? Somebody who is no longer in politics, a retired president who is limited in what he can do. What could they possibly want from Uhuru Kenyatta? Okay? Right. Let us start by answering the first question. And the answer to that question is, it is difficult to see how the visit by Ruto, followed by the visit by the wazungus, it is very difficult to believe that they are not linked. In other words, bila kizungu mingi, they must have been linked. But how? Okay. In my opinion, this is further evidence that the real reason Ruto went to see Uhuru is a major looming crisis over the nation of Kenya. Okay? In my opinion, this is further evidence because the visit by the envoys followed soon after, which would suggest that whatever Ruto may have wanted from Uhuru, he did not succeed in getting. Whatever help he was seeking. Okay? And so it makes perfect sense that shortly after that, the wazungus themselves went to see Uhuru. Okay? And now we need to go back into understanding what triggered the urgent visit from Ruto to Uhuru. Now, I have used the word urgent. There is some super fascinating information here. According to impeccable sources, Ruto did not go to Gatundu by road. He used a chopper, which is more than strange. Ichawari is in Kiambu. It is just here. Yeah, a few minutes by road. Why take a chopper? Hey, why? Well, if you're the president of Kenya, you can do many things. And sometimes you have your reasons, which may not necessarily be made public. Maybe if I was to speculate, we all know that the Mount Kenya region is very hostile. Yeah? And so maybe somebody was not in the mood of being jeered and booed and heckled, and then somebody posting a video on TikTok or something like that. Okay? I don't know. But it is interesting that major media houses reported that he went by road. I was informed by an impeccable source that he went by chopper. Be as it may, we are focusing here on the reason why. Now, shortly after I posted my video giving the most likely reason for this encounter between Ruto and Uhuru that shocked Kenyans, I discussed with another analyst, and they rubbished the reason I gave. However, the very same analyst yesterday turned around and told me, Chris, I think you were right. Because earlier they had said they were sure it was something to do with politics. I told them no, these two cannot discuss politics. The disagreement between them is very personal. And therefore, the only thing that can bring them together is something very serious. Much more serious than politics. That is what I told them. Anyway, yesterday they changed their mind and they agreed with me. And by the way, I am also aware that many on this channel, even regulars, may not have agreed with me. And of course I appreciate the fact that that reason I gave was not so dramatic, was not so entertaining, was not so easy to see. And for many, it may not be easy to understand. However, on this channel, we endeavor to deal with nothing but the truth, even when it is boring, even when it is not entertaining, but as long as it is the truth. And I assure you, this looming crisis, if it is not stopped, I assure you, it will not be boring. And it will hit all of us very hard. Of course, those of you who caught that video, I'll put a link in the description area below. Those of you who have already taken it in, know that this looming crisis is financial. And I can already hear that next question. Chris, you mean a serious financial meltdown in Kenya can affect these powerful Western nations? Are you sure? The answer to that question is yes. Remember, these powerful Western powers have very heavy investments in the country called Kenya. Especially those two nations, whose envoys rushed to Gatundu to see Uhuru Kenyatta. And so, did Uhuru Kenyatta betray us? Alituuza ama alisimama na sisi? That, of course, is the lingering question. Now, I believe it is important that we understand something, and this is highly sensitive, before I answer that question. We need to understand that when a powerful nation approaches a country like Kenya, a third world country, African country like Kenya, the leader of that country, or the powerful people in that country being approached, have got very little room to maneuver in. Okay? And also by extension, they have very little room, if any, to lean towards the answer that says no to these powerful people. Usually, they have no option but kuingia box. Okay? And we have seen historically in the past, those leaders in Africa who have said no, those leaders in Africa who have refused kuingia box, have usually ended up very badly. I believe one of the recent examples is the immediate former president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli. You see, the truth is, African countries are not allowed to make a decision that does not put the international community right at the top, okay, into top consideration. African countries and powerful people within those countries are not allowed to make such decisions. It is important that we appreciate that. Okay? And believe it or not, the recent elections in the United States of America that delivered a win for Donald Trump, a man whose mantra is America First, is actually a great help to third world African countries. Believe it or not. I am not sure if most of us are going to be able to see, when you're on the table negotiating with a country that is saying America First, you have more room to say Kenya First. You have more leeway to negotiate, as opposed to a situation, which is what has been happening, where you have a powerful Western nation micromanaging your country. Okay? They want to introduce this, it must be introduced, even with deadlines, by a certain date. Okay? And of course, part of the deal, in most instances, not all, is that that same powerful Western country is also holding your hand financially. Even as it enriches you as an individual, you powerful person in that country. At the same time, those of us who grasp that very important point will understand very clearly why, after the results in America were announced, there was great panic in the Kenya Kwanza government. A panic they have never recovered from to this day. And I believe this has also contributed to the looming crisis that caused Ruto to go and see Uhuru. I hope most of us will understand why this is a sensitive topic and why I have analyzed it in the manner that I have. You know, in 2020, 2019, 2020, I used to be very naive. And when the global crisis started, I was still very naive. And so I did my research, I presented my reports, I did my videos, and I got into very serious trouble that to this day I have never fully recovered from. It has been a very steep learning curve for me, and I'm sure for most Kenyans. Let me leave it at that. And so, we have to assume that the probability that Uhuru aliingia box, he accepted whatever was presented to him, the probability that that happened is extremely high. I would put it at over 90%. Okay? Now, what does that mean for us as Kenyans? Well, for starters, it means that Uhuru will be forced, going forward, to work more closely with the government of William Samoei Ruto. And one of the signs that this is exactly what has happened is the appointments that will follow, of allies of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Of course, top on the list is a darling of the Western world, He was widely praised during the corona crisis by the wazungus. I'm sure they've been asking, where is this man? Okay? I'm of course talking about a man called Mutahi Kagwe. It is widely expected that Mutahi Kagwe will be appointed to the Ruto cabinet. And people are talking about the still vacant internal security docket. Now, you know, this is very fascinating because Mutahi Kagwe won the elections in 2017 but was rigged out. He was one of the politicians from the Mount Kenya region who went to State House bitterly complaining to the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, showing him evidence that they had been rigged out by the then Deputy President William Ruto, who we now know in those elections was very careful to ensure that all the people elected in the Mount Kenya region were with him. He was of course preparing for the 2022 presidential elections. And President Uhuru Kenyatta found himself in a very difficult position. Those elections could not be repeated because he had to be careful not to upset the balance within the ruling Jubilee government. I'm sure you'll remember that the foundation of the Jubilee party was Uhuru Ruto. Uhuru and Ruto. And so Uhuru's decision then was, you guys wait for 2022, but meanwhile I'll see what I can do for you. And one of the things he did was to appoint Mutahi Kagwe as Health Cabinet Secretary. I'm sure most of us remember that. And that is how he came to the attention of the powerful wazungus. He was giving the daily corona updates. We all remember that. Now, anybody who understands Mount Kenya politics and the position of our brothers and sisters in the Mount Kenya region will know that this union, this handshake, this cooperation, whatever you want to call it, forced between Uhuru and Ruto is going to be very complicated. It is going to be extremely difficult to navigate, because there is a lot of hostility from the Mount Kenya region. But then we need to understand the reality of the situation here, and that some of these things are forced. And this is precisely why characters like Raila Amolo Odinga are now busy fighting for an African Union. Post, as ridiculous as it sounds, is there. Wakenya mpende, msipende, is there, and is going to vie for that position. And many things could happen there, and you could find yourself very surprised. And I would urge you to brace yourselves, because it is possible that you could find that Raila actually wins those elections, against all odds. Some people are very powerful. I'm sure you know what I mean. Things happen. And therefore, for those of us who are very emotional about these things, and for good reason, brace yourselves. Anything could happen. Kunaendanga hivyo. And so if everything goes according to some people's plans, our dear brothers and sisters in the Mount Kenya region will be very soon going through the same pain that some of us went through when this Raila Odinga AU job manenos came out for the first time. And it will also be very interesting to see what happens to characters like Jeremiah Kioni, who is the face of the Jubilee party right now. Because if events unfold the way the wazungus want, then Jeremiah Kioni will find himself in a very complicated position. Because we all know that he's very close to retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, and is also close to the people of the Mount Kenya region. And therefore, going forward, he may have to choose one of the two, because of the way the cards, the political cards, are falling on the table. But whatever happens, this will be a super fascinating political situation, for us to analyze and look at. However, my fellow Kenyans, my fellow countrymen, take heart, because you see, it is not over until the fat lady sings. You know, I believe that one of the things that has been greatly underestimated by the powerful is the anger amongst Kenyans and the determination amongst Kenyans to bring change to their country. And that is exactly what can end up rubbishing all these boardroom decisions that have been made for us as a country. That could easily turn everything upside down. And I dare say, we have President William Ruto to thank for bringing us together as Kenyans. I mean, the man has done an excellent job in making all Kenyans come together, in saying no to him and his administration. He has done such a good job that we Kenyans are rapidly forgetting tribalism and all the other silly things that were messing us. We are quickly forgetting those things, and we are quickly coming together to speak in one voice. Even spirited efforts to make us hate our sisters and brothers in the Mount Kenya region, to blame them, even those efforts have not quite worked as well as those who are engineering them intended. Most of us have our eyes wide open and will never fall for such cheap tricks. The House of Mumbi are a very special people. They have a very difficult and interesting past, and the rest of us Kenyans would do well to understand them, and especially understand where they're coming from, and to embrace them as Kenyans, just like anybody else, just like you and I. We must do that to frustrate the plans of those who do not want us to be united, so that they can win. Always remember that. They want to win, and therefore they'll do everything in their power to divide us so that they can win. It's as simple as that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the Kikuyu are perfect, and neither the Kambas perfect, and neither the Luyas perfect. I'm sure you get my drift. Nobody's perfect. Every community has got its weaknesses. But we need to climb above that and unite as one for a better Kenya and nothing else. Especially for future generations, our children, our grandchildren, etc., etc. We must stand up to be counted. We must do something for a better Kenya. You know, sometimes, like last night, I get moved to tears. I get very touched by what some Kenyans have done, what some Kenyans have sacrificed to support this channel, to support me and the work I do. I really get moved and I get very emotional. Some of them have been with me for a long time. Some of them discovered Kumekucha in more recent years. But they have firmly stood with me through thick and thin. Even after the disaster of 2020, when I found myself in serious trouble, after attracting the attention of some very powerful people, those are the ones who have kept this channel going. And I always pray for them that Almighty God will meet them at the point of their every need, and that they'll be blessed until they are sure those blessings are from nowhere else but from the Ancient of Days. Asanteni sana na mbarikiwe sana. Now you can see details on the screens right now. As per the tradition of this channel, we're in that season again of giving to yours truly, Kumekucha Chris. Use those details and I will be very, very grateful. All for a better Kenya. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.